So this morning, Swami just said it's only befitting we read something from Swami Vivekananda about Lord Krishna's yoga. So Swamiji gave a talk under the heading Great Teachers of the World in 1900, February the 3rd, in Shakespeare Club, Pasadena. So here's an excerpt from Swami Vivekananda about Lord Krishna. He says, "What is the message of Krishna? Whosoever lives in the midst of the world and works and gives up all the fruit of his action unto the Lord, he's never touched with the evils of the world. Just as the lotus, born under the water, rises up and blossoms above the water, even so is the man who is engaged in the activities of the world, giving up all the fruit of his activities unto the Lord." Quoted from the Gita. Swamiji goes on saying, Krishna strikes another note as a teacher of intense activity. Work, 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 day and night, says the Gita. You may ask, then where is peace? If all through life I am to work like a cart horse and die in harness, what am I here for? Krishna says, yes, you will find peace. Flying from work is never the way to find peace. Throw off your duties if you can and go to the top of a mountain. Even there, the mind is going whirling, whirling, whirling. Someone asked a sannyasin, "Sir, have you found a nice place? How many years have you been traveling in the Himalayas?" "For 40 years, replied the sannyasin. "There are many beautiful spots to select from and to settle down in. Why did you not do so?" "Because for these 40 years, my mind would not allow me to do so. We all say, let us find peace, but the mind will not allow us to do so." You know the story of the man who caught a Tartar. A soldier was outside the town and he cried out when he came near the barracks, "I have caught a Tartar." A voice called out, "Bring him in." "He won't come in, sir." "Then you come in." "He won't let me come in, sir." So in this mind of ours, we have caught a Tartar. Neither can we tone it down, nor will it let us be toned down. We have all caught Tartars. We all say, be quiet, be peaceful, and so forth. But every baby can say that and thinks he can do it. However, that is very difficult. I have tried. I threw overboard all my duties and fled to the tops of mountains. I lived in caves and deep forests, but all the same, I have caught a Tartar because I had my world with me all the time. The Tartar is what I have in my own mind, so we must not blame poor people outside. These circumstances are good and these are bad. So we say while the Tartar is here within, if we can quiet him down, we shall be all right. Therefore, Krishna teaches us not to shirk our duties, but to take them up manfully and not to think of the result. The servant has no right to question. The soldier has no right to reason. Go forward and do not pay too much attention to the nature of the work you have to do. Ask your mind if you're unselfish. If you are, never mind anything, nothing can resist you. So plunge in, do the duty at hand. And when you have done this, by degrees you will realize the truth. Whosoever in the midst of intense activity finds intense peace, whosoever in the midst of the greatest peace finds the greatest activity, he is a yogi. He's practicing yoga. He's a great soul. He has arrived at perfection. Now, you see that the result of this teaching is that all the duties of the world are sanctified. There is no duty in this world which we have any right to call menial, and each man's work is quite as good as that of the emperor on his throne.
Let us contemplate on the message that we just heard from Swami Vivekananda for a couple of minutes, then we'll start resume our talk. Now, the meditation. Ooh. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Thank you for time spent in contemplation on the message of Swami Vivekananda just now. It was read. Yoga is about focusing the mind on what we want to gain, bringing it back from the thing that deflects our mind away. One of the things that deflects our mind in present age is cell phone. If we don't keep it silent or put it switch off, it will attract our mind and take us away. So let us now put our cell phones on silent mode or in the switch off mode. That will help us to hear more about yoga and Yogeshwara, the Lord of Yoga. So Krishna, the Lord of Yoga, in the Gita we know, Krishna is said, Yat Yogeshwarat Sakshat Krishnat Kathayataha. The whole of the Gita is, the message of the Gita is given by whom? By Krishna. Who Krishna? Yogeshwara Krishna. It came from Yogeshwara Krishna. So Krishna is called to be Yogeshwara. What is yoga and what is Yogeshwara? Yogeshwara, we know, Lord of the Krishna, Lord of Yoga, Master of Yoga, who himself or herself established in yoga and also capable of making others go through the path of yoga. He is the Yogeshwara, who not only himself is in yoga, but he has the power to take us to the path of yoga, who can make us yogi. He himself, Sri Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, saying about all different methods of worshipping God or spiritual practice, he said, Tasmad yogi bhavarjuna. You, Arjuna, be a yogi. If you are a yogi, you can perform all the actions in the world, and yet you can keep your mind in God. God is peace and love. You can be peaceful, loving, serene, tranquil, and yet perform all the works and duties and responsibilities of the world without going through any anxieties or tension. That is what the yoga promises. Yoga ultimately means connection. Yoga is to unite, to connect. Yuns, from yuns dhatu of Sanskrit, means to yujate, to unite. What uniting? Uniting the soul with the Supreme Soul. Uniting ourselves with the God. So our idea about God, it varies about what we think ourselves. Let me say from what Hanuman said, often it is used. When I am conscious of my body, said Hanuman, I look upon you, O Rama, as the master and myself as your servant. When I am conscious that I am an individual soul, I look upon you as the whole and myself as a part. When I am one with the Atman, I look upon myself as one with you. That was Hanuman's attitude towards Sri Rama, the object of his worship. Our idea about God depends on our idea about ourselves. Almost all of us feel that we are limited individuals, bound by body, mind, and senses. For people such as us, devotion to a personal God with form and attributes is the logical way to progress in a spiritual life. But there are very few people who are pure in mind and free from body consciousness from their childhood. And they alone are able to derive spiritual benefit by worshipping God without form. Sri Krishna makes it clear in the Bhagavad Gita that the ideal of a formless God is hard to attain for those who are embodied or those who are bound by their body and mind. For them, there is the path of devotion, assures Sri Krishna. But those who consecrate all their actions to me, regarding me as the supreme goal, and who worship me, meditating on me with single-minded concentration, to them, whose minds are thus absorbed in me, verily I become forth long, Gopatha, the savior from the death-fraught ocean of the world. Etus sarvani karmani mai sanyasya matpara anannenaiva yogena mam dhayanta upasate deshamaham samudharta mrityu sansara sagarat bhavami na chirat partha maya veshita chetasam. Put your mind to me and I will take you across the ocean of samsara. What is samsara? Samsara is the duality. Samsara is forgetting God. Samsara is forgetting our own true nature. Samsara is getting too much attached to this temporary world and thinking it to be permanent. Samsara is forgetting that this world is impermanent. It is temporary, ever changing, and it will change itself. What we see and hold on will pass away, will not remain. When we forget that, we are in deep in the whirlpool of samsara, which makes us suffer in this world, which takes away our peace and joy. The very birthright of you being a human being is we should live in joy. But this samsara makes us live otherwise. And to get rid of this samsara is surrender to God and being in the connection with yoga. So yoga will take us all our problems of this life. What are the problems of this life? All that not knowing that this world, not believing, not behaving this world to be temporary. Sri Ramakrishna once said, if I knew that world is permanent, then I would make whole Kamarpukur covered with gold, whole of my birthplace covered with gold. I know this world is temporary. It's for the time being. It will not remain forever with us. It will slip away. It will go away. We are here for certain time. All our associations are for the time being. When the time ends, we all have to leave those things. We have to be very firmly understanding of this truth, this fact. Otherwise, what will happen? If you are ignorant, you suffer. If you are wise, you remember, you are happy and peaceful and face the challenges of life that there happen. This separation, this illness, old age, all that is a part of life. And you can handle that manage that very well, handle that very skillfully. And that will be done by becoming a yogi, by practicing yoga. Who will teach yoga to us so that we can live in that knowledge? We can acquire that skill to live in that way, skillfully in this world, that it doesn't hurt us. Rather, we'll find joy in life. Sri Ramakrishna refers to a spiritual practitioner who found this world to be all fraught with all separation and disease and temporary and not giving joy. He said, it is dhokha tati. It's a deceiving. It seems to be somewhere going this way, tomorrow it seems to be different. It deceives us. Other person said, why you are afraid of this changing world? It doesn't deceive it. If you can live properly with understanding, it is a place of great mirth and mire. It is a great place of joy. You have to understand to live, how to live in this world, how to wade through the whirlpool of Maya. Sri Krishna says, if someone takes refuge in me, I can take him across this samsara. And when you will take Lord, Chirat Partha Bhavami na Chirat, Achirat, immediately I can take him across this Maya, this samsara, this ignorance, misunderstanding about the world, not understanding the true nature of the world, and not understanding true nature of ourselves. Both come together. When we do not know who we are, we also forget what the world is. And we are muddled in this world. Krishna as the Yogeshwara will guide us how to go beyond this world and worldly thought. How can live in this world wisely and happily. And Sri Krishna says, for that, you have to think of God. God the permanent, God the unchanging, God the eternal, and God your own soul. Be fixed in me. Remember that. Not this world is your ultimate substratum. Be fixed with your truth of your substratum, with your basis. So he says in this Bhagavad Gita, he says, Mayeva mana adhatsva mayi buddhim nivesaya. Nivasishyasi mayeva ata urdhvam na samsaya. If you put your mind in me and you put your intellect in me, with your intellect always engaged with me, then I will then you will come to me. There is no doubt about that. That there will be rise in your attitude, in your knowledge, in your awareness, spiritual awareness, there is no doubt, says Sri Krishna, the Lord of Yoga, how he guides us to the supreme, the way that we are given, as Shankara says in the Viveka Chudamani, that we have got three very wonderful gifts by God in this life: Manusyatvam, Mumukshutvam, Mahapurusha Samsraya. And how it happened? Daiva Nugraha. By the grace of God, we have been born as a human being with human qualities, Manushyatva. Then we have aspiration to become better person, to become spiritual person, that is Mumukshutva, to become free from ignorance, that is Mumukshutva. And to that, we need someone to guide us, some help. We as a human being are too strong with our samskaras and all that. We have many weaknesses. We feel we are not capable to go beyond this thing. We are disturbed by a few words, few instances, few losses. We become disturbed. Who will take us beyond this this samsara, this maya? So Mahapurusha Samsraya, connection with some higher ideal. We have Sri Ramakrishna in our life, Holy Mother, Swamiji, Krishna, Jesus, and Buddha. All are there to help us. Vedas, Qurans, and Bibles are there to guide us. So we are very fortunate because we have all the three: Manusyatva, Mumukshutva, and Mahapurusha Samsraya. And when we have got all these benefits, so we must fully utilize this. Otherwise, we'll be like that person who have got everything in life but died as a beggar, couldn't utilize the wealth that he had. So we don't want to be that. We want to practice yoga. We want to benefit from getting all this thing by the grace of God and achieve as much as we can in this very life. Sri Ramakrishna says, in this very life you can attain God. God realization is possible for everyone. Just perform something that you get connected with God, and that connection should be stronger and intenser. With time it will be by the grace of God himself. Sri Krishna teaches various stages of devotion to all spiritual aspirants. He says, fix your mind on me alone. Rest your buddhi on me alone. And in me alone you will live hereafter. Of this, there is no doubt. When we read Bhagavad Gita, we have to be cautious about one thing. Sri Krishna there speaks as the divine being, not the individual Godhead. And when he says, come to me, remember me, repeat my name, worship me, we have to take it as God is saying to that. And we can worship God in the form we like him most. In the form of Sri Ramakrishna, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, or any form of God, Shiva, Durga, Kali, any form of God you like, that is what Krishna is saying, established in that position. Is God your Ishta is saying in the form of Krishna. We have to remember that. Krishna is saying, worship me, think of me, put your mind in me, buddhi in me, and you will come to me. That is, will come to your Ishta. There is no difference between Krishna and Ramakrishna. No difference between Krishna and Jesus. Sri Ramakrishna himself said that Satchidananda, the divine being, the infinite ocean of God, divinity, the consciousness, it had once a wave came. And wave came and beautiful flute playing, wonderful dark, somber face, and did the Leela of Sri Krishna in Vrindavan and Mathura and Gokula. That was that wave of that Satchidananda. That very Satchidananda wave at other time, in other place, was born, and he became Jesus Christ. Krishna and Christ, they rhyme together. In Bengali, we say Kesto and Krishna, more closer. And Sri Ramakrishna says, the same Satchidananda, his mercy, came as a human being, as Christ in another place, at other time, for the same purpose of guiding humanity to blessedness, to joyfulness, to success of human life. That's what Jesus is. Who is Jesus? Is Krishna, is Ramakrishna, is Shiva, is Kali, is Durga. So we have to remember this thing while reading the Bhagavad Gita. Otherwise, you become one-sided. That only Krishna, God came only as the Krishna. Krishna himself says, I come again and again. Whenever there is need in this world, I bring forth myself. Sambhavami yuge yuge. And that's very Sri Krishna. How can he be confined only as Krishna, who declares, I come again and again. Again and again. There is no end of that. You know the story of in the gospel, it is said once Arjuna and Sri Krishna was going, and Sri Krishna showed one tree, and it has a lot of blackberries, jamun. And he asked Arjuna, what do you see in the tree? He said, oh Lord, I see there are a lot of blackberries there. They are wonderful fruits. Go and near, see what is there. Krishna sends him. And Arjuna goes near the tree, and he comes back and says, Lord, what a marvel. These are not the berries. Then I find Krishna's hanging, the Gopalas are hanging at the fruit, ready to drop down. Innumerable incarnations of Krishna coming in different forms, in different times. They will come to the world whenever world needs it, whenever there is need for paritranaya sadhunam vinashaya duskritam. So God has advent in this world in many forms. One is that advent of the form, but there is nitya advent, eternal advent of God. You don't have to wait for God to come in the work in any form. God is already present in our heart always. Krishna is there in our heart in the form of our own Ishta. If you love Sri Ramakrishna, Krishna has become Sri Ramakrishna in your heart. What he taught in the Gita, you find in the Gospel. One Swami Kripamayananda, Holy Mother's disciple, very highly God-realized person, Brahmanista Swami. He said, if you want to read Gita's explanation, the best explanation of the Gita in Bengali, read the Kathamrita, the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna in Bengali. Now it's translated in English. And if you want to read that Gita's explanation in English, read the works of Swami Vivekananda. There is nothing but the message of Gita explained so beautifully. All are Yoga Shastras, Brahma Vidya and Yoga Shastras. All these are in the complete works and in the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna. That's what Sri Krishna said. You will come to me if you put your mind and intellect in me. Mind is the deliberative faculty in us. It comes into play when we examine the pros and cons of anything. Manas or mind is characterized by restlessness, doubt, confusion, anxiety, emotions, and desires. It is usually outgoing, ever eager to attach itself to any of the five senses, the ears, the skin, the eyes, the tongue, and the nose. In turn, these organs are eager to be in contact with their corresponding sense objects. Fixing the mind on God involves the challenges of giving an inward turn to the outward directed mind by repetition of God's name, prayer, discrimination, meditation, study of sacred texts, and such disciplines. In brief, what is yoga is already told here. In the Upanishads, it is said, Paranchi khani vetrinat swayambhu tasmat parang pasyati nantaratman. Lord has made these senses outgoing. By nature, they are outgoing. They want to attach this senses to the sense objects. Here we like to hear something, I like to see forms and colors. Like that, they're all outgoing. It has been made that way. And kaschid dhira pratyekatmanamakshan avritta chakshu amritatvamichan. A very few wise persons, they desirous of being immortal. They turn their gaze inwards, avritta chakshu. They turn their eyes inwards because they want immortality. Avritta chakshu amritatvamichan. And who are they? They are the wise persons, seeker of spirituality. Those who want to seek spirituality are wise. We will not seek spiritual progress if we are fools. Fools indulge in the world and worldliness. Little inspiration comes, we seek whatever in the world is not enough for our existence, for our human nature. It lacks something which it could grow more. It stunts my growth, just being worldly. So I seek some spiritual wisdom, spiritual inspiration, and spiritual unfoldment of myself. I want to progress. I know there are many things to achieve spiritually. So I want to look inward. And that's what it is said. What is that? Connecting my mind and intellect to God. And how to do that? It is said in a nutshell through prayer, repeating God's name, worship, meditation, scriptural study. All that is the one which will make us skillful in yoga. Yoga is the skillfulness, says Sri Krishna. So we can have that. Otherwise, mind is outgoing. We have to work upon it. So that's how the yoga can be practiced with this very mind. The mind that makes us sad and makes us involved in the world and worldliness filled in. That very mind can take us out of that thing, out of that suffering, and take us to the blessed moment of our life when we are involved with God, with spirituality, with our own self, with the knowledge of truth. That very mind will help us. Mana eva manushyanam karanam bandha mokshayo. Mind alone is the cause of bondage and the mukti, freedom. Mind alone. Bandhaya vishayasaktam muktam nirvishayam smritam. What makes the mind bound? When it is attached to the vishayas, attached to the world, it is bound. And when it is free from attachment, muktam nirvishayam smritam. When we are free from the attachment to the world, then it will lead us to freedom. Freedom is joy and light. Bondage is darkness and death and suffering. So this very mind, this tool, this alone is the tool given to us, this mind, which by nature is impulsive, it is doubting, it is, as I said, it is all this thing that the nature of the mind, it is restless, and it is emotional, full of desires. That very mind can take us to that. There comes the help of the Yogeshwara Krishna. There, what it is said. Buddhi comes into play when we practice discernment between the real and the unreal, good and bad, moral and immoral, and allow our thoughts and actions to be guided by the knowledge gained from such discernment. Buddhi is also our determinative or decision-making faculty and the seat of our willpower and resolution. Buddhi awakens in proportion to the strength of our willpower. It remains dormant in those who are impulsive and indecisive and indiscriminate in their thoughts and actions. We need to strengthen our willpower if we want to become yogi. And when our willpower is strengthened, buddhi becomes purified. Sri Krishna says in the Gita, in many places he said, take refuge in me, sarva dharman parityajya mamekam saranam praja. But you'll find that it's like buddhau saranam anvicha kripana phala hetava. O Arjuna, take refuge in buddhi, in your own buddhi, in your intellect. When intellect is purified, it becomes guiding factor for us. It will guide us towards good. It will have hold over the mind. Mind will have hold over the senses. And senses then cannot run here and there as they like. Mind will, they have to take permission from mind. Can I watch this? Can I listen to this? Mind says, okay, this is good for you. Watch this. Then mind watches. Then the senses start watching. So control of mind over the senses. And when mind will be controlled, then buddhi is purified. When we have taken refuge in the buddhi and given importance to the buddhi, willpower has strengthened. I have control over own myself. And then we are ready to perform the actions of yoga, to practice yoga. That's how the yoga comes. Sri Krishna suggests a less rigorous practice for those who cannot fix their mind and buddhi on God alone. Often it is very easy to say, fix your mind in God, fix your buddhi in me, and I will reach you, and you will come to me without any delay, says Krishna. But how to control the mind? It is always outgoing. We never did that. Perhaps it is from many lives we have been like this. We never tried to practice yoga in past lives. We don't have samskara like that. In this life, by God's grace, we think that yoga is important. Yoga doesn't mean the hatha yoga. No. The yoga is connection with God, connection with our true nature, connection with ourselves. God and the self are one. Vedanta students know. When we say God, it is not separate from us. God is our own true self. God is our us, I, aham atma gudakesa, sarva bhutasaya sthita. Oh gudakesa, oh Arjuna, I am the self in all beings. That is what the Krishna is, the self of all beings, self of myself. That is Sri Krishna. So that's what it says. So it is the connection. So we find difficult. Krishna as Yogeshwara, Lord of Yoga, who can teach yoga to everyone, not only to the higher advanced souls. He teaches those who are at the basic level. How will we progress, Lord? You are saying, control your mind. Even Arjuna was saying, oh, control your mind. And then Arjuna protested. You are saying so easily control your mind and focus it on me. I find controlling mind is very difficult, says Arjuna. We'll come to that. So Sri Krishna suggests less rigorous practice for those who cannot fix their mind and buddhi on God alone. And Sri Krishna says, if you are unable to fix your mind steadily on me, O Dhananjaya, then seek to reach me by the yoga of constant practice. So, Abhyasa Yoga. Sri Ramakrishna was also asked by somebody, they said, it's very difficult to focus on God. You say, always remember God is difficult. Why difficult? There is a thing like practice, Abhyasa and Vairagya. Vairagya is putting the mind from deflecting things from your focus to back to the thing that you want. That's called Vairagya, very moderately defined. So, atachittam samadhatum na shaknosi mai stiram abhyasa yogena tato mami chaptum dhananjaya. Practice. Repeat the name of God. Sit at one place. Try to close your eyes. Try to focus your mind. Oh, mind doesn't see what I want to think. It thinks of everything else other than that. That is the problem with our mind. So you can say, don't worry. It happens to everyone. Every human being has to go through this process. Practice. Don't go away. Don't run away. Try one day. Next day you'll find half a minute more you can focus. After next day, 1/4 a minute more than the previous day. Like that, slowly you can focus. Abhyasa yogena tato mami chaptum dhananjaya. Oh Arjuna, if you practice, you will gain. It all depends on practice. Abhyasena tu kaunteya vairagyena chakriyate. This practice will come with the vairagya. Vairagya, the focus, determination, willpower, as it is said, on the divine, on the object of our meditation. An unrestrained mind is restless, always in a state of flux, wandering from one thing to another. It looks outward and is ever eager to attach itself to sense objects. Long, steadfast practice is needed to discipline such a mind and give it an inward, Godward turn. Sri Krishna describes this practice in the Bhagavad Gita, renouncing entirely all the desires born of the will, drawing back the senses from every direction by strength of mind. Let a man, little by little, attain tranquility with the help of the buddhi, aimed with fortitude. Once the mind is established in the self, he should think of nothing else. Let him withdraw the fickle and unquiet mind from whatever causes it to wander away and restore it to the control of the self alone. In other words, practice involves repeatedly bringing the mind back to the object of meditation in the heart. That's what Arjuna is trying to say. Practice and you will gain. And when we start practicing assurance from Sri Ramakrishna, if you go one step towards your goal, towards God, towards your spiritual practice, God will come 10 steps towards you. the difference between you and God will become less in that speed. 10 times faster you start moving than what you are trying. And the union with God becomes easy by the grace of God Himself. God wants us. We are the creation of God. Our soul, as Hanuman said, either you think it is a part of God or it is God Himself, whatever you think. But there is connection with God. And God wants us to progress towards Him. That's what the will of God is. It's very compassionate and kind. He wants our spiritual progress. When we do a little, but He leaves something for us to do. Begin, initiate, and God will come to our rescue. And progress is quite fast when we try. Arjuna's power of concentration and skill in archery were legendary, yet he too found it difficult to tame his mind. He complains to Sri Krishna, this yoga which you, O Madhusudana, have declared to be characterized by evenness, I do not see how it can long endure because of the restlessness of the mind. For the mind, O Krishna, is restless, turbulent, powerful, and obstinate. To control it is as hard, it seems to me, as to control the wind. Sri Krishna admits that the mind is restless and hard to control, but says that it can be restrained by practice and by detachment. Detachment involves staying away from anything that deflects us from the path to God realization. Arjuna gives 4 qualities of mind. But he says, Chanchalam hi mana Krishna, Chanchalam pramati balavad dridham. Mind is very powerful. It is not easy to control mind and put in the direction that you ask me to do. It's very powerful, obstinate, and it is quite firm. It's obstinate and turbulent and restless. That is the nature of mind. Swami Vivekananda describes mind like a monkey, which is by nature restless. A monkey that is drunk, and then it has been stung by a scorpion. Then it has been possessed by a ghost. So how much restless will be that monkey? So that is our mind, says Swami Vivekananda. And yet there is no other way than to control this mind and put it on the path of God. No other way left. And for that, various kinds of things, Sri Krishna assures us it is possible to control that monkey. We all have that monkey sitting in us. When we sit for meditation, we realize what is there inside. Mind is just trying to go here and there. This time it thinks of little, trying to think of God. Next time it goes to somewhere in New York where our grandchild is there, or to India where our parents are there, or next time to our work and colleague. Like that, it just jumps. 2 minute passes when you think you are doing meditation. Oh, Swami said, let us remember 2 minute meditation. 2 minutes in come, where is meditation? All mind was thinking everything else other than what I was supposed to think. Because it is a monkey. Monkey which is stung by a scorpion, it is drunk, it is possessed by a ghost, and yet we have that instrument with us. And Sri Krishna assures that is what beauty of all this divine incarnations and our scriptures. So it is possible, it has been done by the people. When Swami Narendranath came to Sri Ramakrishna and said, Sir, have you seen God? What Sri Ramakrishna said, smilingly, yes, I see God, and I can help you to see God. That is the great Acharya, great teacher. That are all Yogeshwaras who says, I can make you do this. Not only that I have seen. Buddha says, I have become awakened. And you also can be awakened if you try. Atma Dipo Bhava, be a light unto yourself. But here Sri Ramakrishna says, I can help you to realize God, to see God. That's what Sri Krishna says. No doubt, Arjuna, what you are saying about the mind, you have thought well. But it is also true that Krishna says, Abhyas, Asamsayam Mahabaho Mano Durnigraham Charam. It's perhaps the first time that Sri Krishna accepts what Arjuna said. Earlier, Arjuna said, "Oh, I don't want to fight these people. These are all they are in front of me, my relatives and my grandsire. And what is the good of fighting and killing them? It is better that I am killed, perhaps, and otherwise I go to forest and live on begging." Then Sri Krishna didn't approve anything. He said, "What are you saying? Like an what cleaver? That is the word. Like a person who has no manliness. You are talking like that, Arjuna. You are such a brave person. You have made your name renowned as a brave warrior, and you are talking like a weak person, seeing something. What has happened to you? What has come to you to think like that?" He just scolded. This doesn't become of you. I didn't expect this to hear from you, Arjuna. Krishna was also dumbfounded when he heard Arjuna saying that. But he didn't give up hope. Krishna was that great. He was Yogeshwara. He had to put Arjuna on the path of yoga, performing all the duty without attachment, whatever was needed to be done. No moha, nasto moha smriti labdva. At the end, Arjuna says, my all moha is gone, that I was thinking they are relatives. Now I know my duty, performing my duty is the most important thing. As a warrior, as a Kshatriya warrior, I have to participate in the war that is called for. Whether I live or die, it doesn't matter. Now I know. Now I remember the Shastras, Arjuna says. Here Sri Krishna says, Arjuna, what you are saying is true. Really, mind is difficult. But what you said cannot be controlled. Is not true. Abhyasena tu kaunteya vairagena cha kriyate. Come under control by abhyasa and vairagya. Trying every day, little by little, you can control this mind. Put the mind in the direction that you want. Do not let the mind to disturb you. Sometimes we feel mind is disturbing us. And it is so powerful, we are not able to control. And it disturbs us day and night. And when mind comes under control, we can just say, mind, you cannot think that. Mind becomes controlled under the power of buddhi. And buddhi is controlled by our individuality, what is called aham, ego, that controls the buddhi, the I control buddhi, and buddhi thus becomes purified. When mind and buddhi are pure, it is easy to control them. When they are impure, full of desires and deluded, they become very powerful. The powerfulness of the mind comes in their impurity. And mind, when it becomes pure, they become like our wonderful friend. Bandhuratma atmanastasya yenat vaivatmanadita. Anatmanastu satrutve vartetatmeva satruvat. When mind is like your controlled and pure, then it becomes like your friend. But when mind is uncontrolled, it is your enemy, it is your foe. So Arjuna says in the Gita, Sri Krishna says. When someone told Sri Ramakrishna that it was extremely difficult to proceed toward God while leading the life of a householder, the great master spoke encouragingly by narrating an example that at Kamarpur, I have seen the women of the carpenter families selling flattened rice. Let me tell you how alert they are while doing their business. The pestle of the husking machine that flattens the paddy constantly falls into the hole of the mortar. The woman turns the paddy in the hole with one hand and with the other holds her baby on her lap as she nurses it. In the meantime, customer arrives. The machine goes on pounding the paddy, and she carries on her bargains with the customers. She says to them, pay the few pennies you owe me before you take anything more. You see, she has all these things to do at the same time, nurse the baby, turn the paddy as the pestle pounds it, take the flattened rice out of the hole, and talk to the buyers. This is called the yoga practice. 15 parts of her mind out of 16 are fixed on the pestle of the husking machine, lest it should bound her hand. With only one part of her mind, she nurses the baby and talks to the buyers. Likewise, he who leads the life of a householder should devote 15 parts of his mind to God. Otherwise, he will face ruin and fall into the clutches of death. He should perform the duties of the world with only one part of his mind. It seems like less. How with one part of the mind we'll manage our household. But if you analyze your mind, you'll find you devote less than one part, 1/16 of your mind in the household work. All the mind is frittered everywhere and thinks of all the things, not even the household duties properly. When we cook, our mind is not fixed on cooking. Sometimes we ask, did I put salt in it or not? We are at other place where our mind had gone. Not even 1/15, 1/16 was there. So instead of letting the mind fritter away to the nonsense thoughts and the thoughts that give us, hurt us, put the mind on God, and with 1/16 of the mind, you will perform the work of the household much better than what we are performing now. That's what Sri Ramakrishna says. Think of God more. What happens with thinking of God? Our mind becomes focused, concentrated. The one part of the mind that we put on the household duties, that becomes more vigorous and intense. And that will create better result than we do now. Because mind is always frittered away. Let us control that with the help of our spiritual practice. Put the mind mostly in God, and then we'll find our things have changed, our attitudes have changed, our behaviors have changed, our peace has regained. We feel more peaceful and happy and joyful. The things do not disturb us that much. Even who said what becomes less? The day you have better prayer, somewhat better meditation, that day you will feel, you don't mean anybody said anything, it doesn't mind much. But the day you are disturbed, if someone says anything, that becomes too big use for us. That's our mind is. It depends, all reaction depends on the state of the mind that we are. They say when you are driving on the road, and if you are quiet, peaceful, somebody wants to come in front of you in the car from other lane. You just hit the brake, and put your car slow so that he can enter. When you are disturbed mind, angry with your boss, or not happy in your family, something happened, then someone wants to come in, blinking on the left or right, then you hit the accelerator and it goes faster. You don't allow anyone to. The same person, how one day behaves that way, another behaves another way. That happens upon the state of our mind. That's why we need to keep our mind always cool, and the coolness of mind will come when it is connected with God, when it is in the state of yoga, and that is possible always to be the state of yoga. That is the goal of life. When we have that goal achieved of the yoga, goal of yoga, then all other goals of life will become so easy to perform. Our actions in the office will be better. Our dealing with our customers will be nicer. Our behavior with our own family members will be better. Our nagging by our some people, or demands by our children will not disturb us much. But when we are disturbed, any request for our children, we'll yell at them. Innocent people, they just talk to their mother or father, and you just behave that way because you are disturbed. You are not in the state of yoga. You are separated from your true self. You are not connected to God. That's why Yogeshwara Krishna comes to our help to make us feel that way. Sri Krishna says, if you are incapable of constant practice, then devote yourself to my service, for even by rendering service to me, you will attain perfection. Another easier way to perform yoga, to practice yoga, not able to connect, too much disturbed in the world. Then serve me. How to serve? Abhyase pesamarthosi mad karma paramo bhava. Do work for me. Madarthamapi karvani kurvan siddhim avapsasi. You will attain the perfection even by performing work for me. You are not able to concentrate your mind. You are not able to repeat the name. You are not able to focus your mind on me. Then do work for me. How to do work for Krishna? What does it mean? Doing work for God. What does it mean? Commentaries on the above verse describe several methods of serving God. How to serve God? Construction of temples. That is also service of God. Laying out temple gardens, big word. Cleaning the place of worship, that we all can do. Cleaning the place of worship, many of you do here. You come, you just offered fruit, someone came, lit the candle, and arranged the flowers, and made the thing. That is the service of God. God is pleased by that. And that will help in controlling our mind. So that is also performance of yoga. It's not yoga is not only sitting down, cross-legged and closed eyes, nose up and breathing. That is not only yoga. All these are the yoga. Cleaning the place of worship, lighting lamps in the temple, gathering flowers, preparing offerings, procuring articles of worship, performing the worship, chanting his names. You see, everything comes under working for him. That's what Sri Krishna says, Madartham api karmani. Do the works for me. That is also yoga. You will attain perfection. You will attain spiritual perfection by that. Chanting his names, singing his praises, prostrating before God, and circumambulating temple. Doing all this out of love of God. That thing has to be there. Why I am doing this? Hari Toshanam, Hari Prema, for to please Hari, to please my God. For that I am doing this. Not to please anyone, just to please God. So by doing this, I know my Ishta will be happy. Every work is done for Hari Doshanam, for the satisfaction, for the pleasure of my Lord. I am doing all this, cleaning, grooming the temple, moving this vacuum cleaner, or cleaning the utensils, cooking food to bring for the devotees. By this, I want to please my Lord. Hari Doshanam, focus on God. Out of love of God, everything becomes yoga. Cooking becomes yoga, bringing that becomes yoga, opening the shrine becomes yoga. Everything becomes the yoga, everything which connects us to God, says Sri Krishna. Another example of how when we are devoted to God and God comes to our help and we are connected to God. We don't have to be very learned, read all the scriptures, have understood all that. Love of God alone is enough. There's one story in the Bhagavad Gita, in the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna, that one person was explaining the Gita and another person was just seeing, and he was shedding tears of joy. And after that was over, the person asked, well, could you explain, could you understand what I explained, this intricacies of the Bhagavad Gita? He said, what do I know? I know nothing of the Gita. I didn't understand anything of what you explained. Then why were you crying? Oh, when you started explaining the Gita, I saw Sri Krishna on the chariot, sitting at the charioteer seat, and Arjuna behind that, and I saw that live. That I couldn't hold tear because of that. When you have that, why you have to understand the Gita? You have what by understanding Gita you would get? You have to have God by your intuition, by the purity of your mind, by purity of imagination. A later person, not a sophisticated, learned, but God can come to like that. Many stories. One story is this I'm reading to you. Rasik, a sweeper at the Dakshineshwar temple garden, was of the lowest caste. He kept the temple premises clean, including the privies, but shied away from people because of his low status. One day, as Sri Ramakrishna was returning to his room from the pine grove, a disconsolate Rasik fell at his feet and earnestly implored him, that is Sri Ramakrishna, Father, shall I not achieve anything in this life? Sri Ramakrishna told him, of course you will. You will achieve everything. So many devotees visit this temple and you serve them by cleaning the temple garden. Sri Ramakrishna blessed him and said, you will see me at the time of death. And it happened that Rasik spent his last moments chanting the name of God. All of a sudden, his face beamed with joy. He cried out, Father, you have come, so you have not forgotten me. Thus, he breathed his last. How yoga can be practiced? By just imploring to the holy person that I want God. I don't want to forget God. This will to have God in his life. How did it come to him? Holy association. He was working in the temple of Dakshineswar, cleaning, sweeping. Somehow it came to his mind by the grace of God. This all has to lead me towards God and presence of Sri Ramakrishna. Sri Ramakrishna avatar of the age present in Dakshineswar. So Rasik, we feel, oh, you'll be blessed by Sri Ramakrishna. It doesn't happen that way. There are many others who were in Dakshineswar, but they didn't want anything spiritual, illumination, anything like that. They just worked, earned their money, and went away in the temple itself. They saw Sri Ramakrishna so many times, but never had the inclination to have any spirituality, any yoga. This Rasik method, the sweeper Rasik, he had that will by the grace of God that he was repeating the name of God when he was sick and at the deathbed. For that, he must have practiced throughout his life. Otherwise, why would he pray to Sri Ramakrishna? Will not I have anything? His heart was already welling up with the love of God. And Sri Ramakrishna blessed him. You will achieve everything. You are serving devotees. You are serving God. You are serving Mother. That's what Abhyasepi asamarthosi madarthamapi karmani kurban siddhimo apsasi. You are working for me, for my devotees. So you attain that siddhi, perfection, and that was so much expressed in the life of Rasik that he saw Sri Ramakrishna gone there and he could recognize face beamed with joy at the last moment, attained God. Rasik attained everything because of his great longing for God. Without this longing, worship becomes just another humdrum activity. Describing worldly people's worship, Sri Ramakrishna says, some people have their shrine rooms in their attics. The women arrange offering and flowers and make the sandal paste. But while doing so, they never say a word about God. The burden of the conversation is, what shall we cook today? I couldn't get good vegetables in the market. That curry was delicious yesterday. That boy is my cousin. Hello there. Have you that job still? Don't ask me how I am. My hurry is no more. Just fancy, says Sri Ramakrishna. They talk of such things in the shrine room at the time of worship. Sri Ramakrishna found someone playing cards in the temple. He was so annoyed and so hurt. This is coming to the temple and frittering time in such nonsense things like playing cards in the temple instead of trying to put their mind in God by repeating God's name, by prayer, by meditation. What a misuse of time and the place. It was so sad. How could they beautifully utilize their time in the yoga? But they are misusing it, frittering it away. And they're all working for the shrine that Sri Ramakrishna gives example. But what Sri Ramakrishna gave example is not just uncommon. We will see in the life of many, maybe we sometimes are mistaken in that way. How much when we do work, are we focused on God? So this all the things about Krishna, Sri Ramakrishna, when we talk Krishna as the Yogeshwara Krishna, that we remind that we have to focus on God. We have to focus on God by various ways, by serving for God, by repeating his name, by reading his works, his life, his lila, and by trying to talk about God. In Vedanta, it is said, Swadhyaya pravachanabhyam na pramaditabhyam in Taittiriya Upanishad. So the students were going back home after study with the teacher, and teacher said, you have studied about the Brahman, about spirituality, you are going back home. Never neglect your studies. And also do not neglect speaking about the pravachanabhyam. Talk about God, talk about truth. That will make you vigorous and live in the truth. That will make you live in the state of yoga. That's why, as Sanjay said in the Bhagavad Gita at the end, Yatra Yogeshwarat Krishna, Yatra Partho Dhanudhara, Tatra Srir Vijayo Bhuti, Dhruva Nitir Matir Mama. So he said, this is my firm law, from idea that Dhruvaniti, that wherever there is Yogeshwara Krishna and Dhanurdhara Bharata, there will be success, there will be prosperity, there will be everything that is good will come there. What is Yogeshwara Krishna? Yogeshwara Krishna is our purified mind, our spiritual practice. What is Dhanurdhara Arjuna? That is our work, skill, karma yoga. When these both combine, our self-effort, when they combine together, God, mind's grace, God's grace, and our self-effort, there will be success. There will be prosperity. There will be achievement. We will gain the state of yoga. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti.
Thank you so much for the excellent talk. We have a 15-minute break.